when a trans person says cis people make me uncomfortable, or even when a gay person says straight people make me uncomfortable, realize, yeah, some cis people are really bad, and realize that if you know you are a good trans ally, and when I mean good trans ally, I mean, like, you don't, first of all, make things about yourself. You don't ask for birth name, you don't ask for, like, I've had so many people ask me what's in my pants. Like, you don't ask that. I'm living currently in a boys' dorm. All I had to do was go and say, hey, I identify as transgender. When it comes to other aspects, it's not the best. I don't think that the discriminatory policy covers transgender people at all. I know that I do not feel safe on this campus most of the time at all. I do not feel safe walking by myself at night because I am so openly trans. Like, if you know me at all, I'll talk about it every 5 minutes. And it's really scary to think that somebody in my class could notice me on the street and just harass me or even resort to violence, and the school would probably not do much because I'm transgender. A lot of people push my voice down because I identify as a boy. A big term that I use for myself is pretty boy, because I love wearing florals, I love wearing dresses, I don't have to wear pants, I love makeup, I want to be a makeup artist, and a lot of people have told me I'm not actually trans because of these things. The only thing that will make you qualify as trans is if you say you are trans. I've had such an incredible experience. I went into this terrified because Moorhead isn't, like, I came into this knowing that Moorhead's not the most inclusive place. I was genuinely excited to see that we had an LGBT group. I went into it very high hopes. I met the most incredible people who have, on more than one occasion, just held me as I cried. Because I'm terrified of coming out. I'm terrified of being outed. Without them, I wouldn't be living where I live now. I would still be in a girls' dorm, in a place where I don't belong. Without them, I am pretty sure I wouldn't have come back. I wouldn't have had the motivation to come back. And without this group, this group has become my family. We've been through so much. Be authentically and unapologetically yourself.
There are 2 transgender students in high school. Me and the other student is Dylan Scott. He just spoke up on the stage with a poem. Oh. And yes, the high school is not very open because I go every day with discrimination, but I look at them, I call them an ignorant swine because it makes them think, and I tell them I forgive them because that's the only way you get past anything. I've always been extremely girly. You're born trans. I take it from a scientific method. It is chemical to me in my brain. Some people think it's emotional. It is emotional, but emotions are chemicals. Be a little afraid because there's always going to be someone who's not going to like you. Be safe, have caution, but still be brave enough to come out because there's always going to be someone there to support you, whether it's your family, friends, or just random strangers who are going to stand up for you and take the world on to protect you.
My advice is to find a group of people that really, really love you and will accept you, and stick with them because they'll stand by you no matter what. They're the only reason I'm out right now and happy. Probably the only reason I'm alive, because if I would have stayed in the closet, I would have ended it. You can be a better ally by just standing with people who are trans. Like, there's these kids in most of my classes that will make fun of me and stuff because I'm trans and call me she and she-male and all kinds of stuff. And there's people who will stand up and straight out go crazy on them. And it's pretty awesome, and it makes me feel better, and they stop. So allies have a ton of power.
To be a better ally to the trans community, just from my personal experience, is to realize that your story is not going to be the same as theirs. My experience as a gay man is not going to be the same experience as someone else who is in the community who identifies as transgender, because they're not the same. They're not going to be the same outcomes. They're not going to be the same aspects. And to make sure that you check what goes on in your life and check your privilege versus what they have, because where I identify as cisgender, I have a lot more privilege compared to my transgender family and people that I work with and people that I have come to love, because I'm not looked at in the same light. I'm usually held to a different standard, whereas they're typically looked down upon. So just making sure that your privilege is checked and making sure that you know that things are not always going to be the same. That's actually some of the stuff that our organization works on, is making our university more inclusive. We're fighting things for like gender inclusive housing and gender inclusive bathrooms that are publicized to our university and our students and our community, to say these are here and these resources are there. We're fighting for the health clinic to be more understanding and have a little bit more education based around LGBT health, because it's not exactly the same as what a cisgender heterosexual would expect from their health. We're working for a full-time LGBT director whose main concern is for the LGBT community on this campus. 10 years ago, you would have never thought that our university could have a drag show or to have a march on our campus to say we have this stuff that we need and we have this stuff that we want to do. We recently held a protest last semester because of the lack of gender inclusive bathrooms, and that's something that our students need. We can't have students who have classes on one side of campus and only have one gender inclusive bathroom on the other side. It interferes with their schooling and it interferes with their time. And we need to make sure that everyone feels at home and safe on Morehead State University's campus.
There are a lot of ways that one can be a better ally, but I think the main way is honestly just to listen to people who are part of the trans community and see what they need, see what they think we can do to be a better ally. Because as an ally, it's not really my place, and I don't want my voice to be heard higher than those of trans people, because transphobia doesn't affect me. Another way is we as American has a very gendered language. Like you say salesman, fireman, policeman, kind of stuff like that. There are a lot of ways we can kind of gender neutralize our language so that we don't accidentally misgender anyone, or just kind of be more inclusive to all genders. So you can say instead of fireman, like fireperson or firefighter.
Research indicates that most people judge other people in the first few 100 milliseconds from meeting them. That is, we form our judgment before we even say hello. Usually, when we can't take the perspective of others, we stigmatize them. This also brings other problems. I say, let's take the compassionate approach. Let's have compassion for all people, even the people that are hateful or even ignorant. Let's join forces and join together for a better world and a stronger community. When we broaden our horizons and accept different perspectives, we open up ourselves to have something that can transpire to compassion and a stronger unity among communities. People have been changing their gender identity for centuries. The only difference is that they have done it behind closed doors. We live in a society now that progresses us to bring whatever has been kept in the dark into the light. It's time to accept and support our transgender and our gender non-conforming individuals.
No, this hasn't been just an upcoming thing. It's not a trend for me. This is real. I felt really validated at that point. And ever since then, I've been so much happier, really, knowing that now I have the validation that I am who I am, other than the people around me and my boyfriend, who are going to do their best to help me get started on testosterone and everything, get the surgeries that I need, and it's great, because I've known there was like something off since I was born, but when I came here, just overwhelming positive reinforcement, more than I got back at home. I lost some friends back home just because of the distance, but what I've gained here has been overwhelmingly amazing. Let's see. Allies, I think we already feel enough of the support. What needs to happen is more understanding of the terms and know that there's a difference between gender and sexuality. But then we need more action. Like, we're the ones out in the rallies protesting. There's very few allies, I feel. If you're dead set on coming out to someone, have it be someone you trust, someone you know has a positive mindset about the topic, someone that will accept you. Because coming out, like I've said, is a lot of trust. You're putting a lot of trust in that person to understand and respect you for the person you are on the inside, not what you may currently be on the outside. If you're out, congrats. That's a huge weight lifted off of your shoulders. Coping? Look around in your community. If not, look around online in the good places. There's people out there. There's me, there's everyone else that's in this video. There's all kinds of people around. You just have to know where to look.
One thing we need is a better understanding of how gender identity and sexuality isn't necessarily tied together all the time. I consider myself somewhere in between male and female. That's me. But some people consider themselves something altogether different, or neither. You know, so there's also words for that. And we need to respect all of the different, statuses when it comes to gender identity, and how certain things are independent of each other. Like, people who are agender aren't like people who are like me, binary, somewhere, some part of both. I feel like I'm both. Some people feel like they're neither. I got introduced to the drag queen Divine at a very young age, and I just looked up to all these, women, and became very obsessed with effeminates, and I wanted to be that on some level. But I also, like superheroes and professional wrestlers, and I looked up to them, and I wanted to be rock stars and all that stereotypical male kid kind of stuff, so I liked all that stuff too. So I was enough of a male growing up in southeastern Kentucky that nobody really noticed. If you are anything other than heterosexual or cisgender, you need to find a support system. You need to find people. You need to find people, not necessarily who are like you, that would be good, but you need to at least find people who accept you, that you can talk to about, boyfriend, girlfriend problem. Find a sympathetic family member or one friend, somebody. You've got to find some sort of community, and if you really cannot find a community, it might be best to go somewhere that there is a community.
We can be better allies to the transgender community by actually listening to their concerns and their struggles, and not simply just marking it off as something that's not important or oh, you're just being sensitive. These people are actually living with these struggles and these issues, and they deserve, as a human, to be able to not have these struggles or to have their concerns listened to, and we need to better represent them. We need to listen to them, and we also need to proactively advocate for them, not just reactively. And what I mean by that is we need to fight and advocate for them when there's not things going wrong. We can't wait until there's legislation that's a hate crime, not hate crime, but a hate bill against them. We need to every day think, what can we do to better their situation? And some things that we can also do too is to be respectful of pronouns. If we happen to use the wrong pronoun, we need to apologize and try to make the effort to use the right one in the future. Thankfully, Hollywood has been doing the job that Washington is not doing or has not been doing in the past. We've had a lot more exposure in the media, which is awesome because we are a spectrum of people. We're all different people, and that's one way that we've been able to do that is through the help of Hollywood and the media. The original Pride, the Stonewall riots, what a lot of people fail to realize or just don't even know is that the first Pride was a riot, and it was started by two trans women of color, Marsha Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. And Marsha, she was one of the first people to sort of start being very actively involved in advocacy. She, after the riots, she was on Wall Street protesting against the unfair prices for AIDS medication that largely affected the LGBT community at the time. Sylvia Rivera, she was one of the first few people to throw bottles at police officers as they were raiding the Stonewall Inn. She even shouted, "This is the revolution." So I think, although Hollywood has helped out so much with bringing forth these social issues, at the same time they've sort of whitewashed and cisgendered everything. Because when we look and think of Stonewall, we think of these gay white men, when that's not the case. They were there, but trans women of color were actually one of the very first few people to start this and to be actively involved.